Good morning. This is Rick Marr. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar this morning. So, a couple of small housekeeping things. Just because of the number of people that we have on the webinar, I have everyone's phone on mute, so there's no background noise. If you would like to ask a question, there will be a chance to ask questions at the end of the presentation. You can use the chat function on your screen, and also we'll provide our contact information at the end of the session should you like to talk further. So our intention here is to go about 25 minutes or so on the presentation side, and then open it up to questions, and we'll go from there. So again, thank you for joining us. Again, my name is Rick Marr. I'm the CEO of Turning Point Human Capital Management. And so I know this topic may be of urgent concern to some of you, whether you have telecommuting or plans somewhat in place already or not at all. You know, the past 24 hours have seen incredible activity with regards to telecommuting. And this is no longer an exercise. This became very real as of yesterday. Yesterday, Governor Cuomo announced that he will sign an executive order tomorrow, Friday, March 20th, 2020, which will require all non-essential businesses to implement work from home policies. So what is not clear at this point, because the guidance has not been released, is whether this language means it will be signed tomorrow and start at, in the next couple of days after that, or tomorrow is the first day to start that. So it's important that we're here together because there's no time to waste, whether it's tomorrow, Monday, or Tuesday. This is upon us, and it's going to be enforced by this executive order that will be signed by Governor Cuomo. So in the release that they've given us so far, this is businesses that rely on in-office personnel must decrease their in-office personnel by 50%. Exemptions from this order are essential businesses, which include shipping, media, warehousing, grocery and food production, pharmacies, healthcare providers, utilities, banks, and related institutions. So with that said, there's a lot of moving parts for a lot of businesses that have to get turned on immediately to comply with this. But we here at Turning Point Human Capital Management have worked almost 100% remotely for several years now, managing close to 100 employees at that time and team members. And it has become second nature to us. And that's really what this presentation is about, to share with you what we've done so that we may, if you need help, we can help provide you some guidance. And we hope to give you some of our knowledge and strategies to help you kickstart this and move forward in a strategic, tactical, and compliant manner, right? So there are a lot of things that go along with that, from strategy to tactics and compliance, to make this happen in a very short period of time. As a side note, I was interviewed by Newsday this week on this very topic. The article is scheduled to be in the business section this Sunday. So although I don't have any control, it was a pretty extensive article around strategies, tactics, and how to be compliant when moving employees to a telecommuting platform. Now, that interview took place prior to the announcement of Governor Cuomo's executive order, but a lot of the topics we're covering here, you can check out in that Newsday article on Sunday. So let's move forward here. Oh, sorry. So as an introduction, today our presentation will go through the details of how to take your company virtual in this new mandated world. We're going to skip the IT and cyber part of this, as that should be handled by your appropriate department. If you do not have a dedicated IT or cyber team, you can email me. We'll give you our information at the end of the presentation, and we can certainly make some introductions or recommendations should you need some assistance. We will go through the steps processes and procedures, as well as compliance and strategy issues, as we talked about, and tactics. Lastly, we will outline some next steps to take in order to kickstart this properly, or if you already implemented these tactics and strategies, how to maintain it. And as I mentioned, there'll be time at the end of the presentation for Q&A. So about telecommuting, allowing, and that allowing is now mandated, allowing your employees to work from home is a large undertaking. For some of you, there are many things to consider that you may not even realize, and now you're up against it. Does everyone have things like, does everyone have a computer and internet access? Can they link their computers to the company computers? How do we monitor them? This can be a scary and overwhelming thought, right? So I think you may be pleasantly surprised that a majority of your team may already know how to work from home without much instruction from you, aside from the policies. It is probably a fantastic idea to connect with your team literally as this conference call ends and ask their thoughts on how, quote unquote, to work from home. They may have better insight than you do into software that you use and different ideas that they may have from their past or other family members and friends that work remotely. However, I caveat this by saying this is not spring break. Work must get done. Just like in the office, every employee should know the company's goals, their department's goals, and their position's goals. And then more importantly, how you're going to measure them to make sure that the work that needs to be done is getting done in a proper and timely manner. So, where to start, right? This is a big undertaking, and it's a tremendous. We're under tremendous time constraints as of this new executive order that was announced yesterday. So it's important to consider the circumstances regarding your specific company in order to determine the best possible way to begin implementing telecommuting. Let me just check it as in. Okay, we'll get to your question, Tammy. Okay, so as a general rule of thumb, consider this. If an employee can close their office door for 8 hours and still effectively complete their work, that job is probably adaptable for telecommuting. While it is certainly more convenient to have employees working face-to-face with the many conversations and work-related communications, they could be replaced by other methods. Obviously, there's email, there's video chats, there's phone calls. Additionally, in our office, just to kind of share some of the things that we've done with our over 100 team members over the past several years, there are other things like Slack and teamwork, and many of these communication tools and productivity tools are either free or relatively inexpensive. So things to consider. Telecommuting may feel like it's a policy that is only beneficial to your employees. But with the correct policies and procedures in place, you will see that it can be beneficial for your company as well. Improving the quality of work in your employees and thus improving morale and reducing stress will lead to an increase in productivity and create a company people will love working for. You know, this is obviously at this time, we're all adjusting to some new normal, right? And in many instances, that new normal has not been defined yet. And so this is going to be a new normal for the time being. And how do we make this work for us so that our company works, our employee works, and ultimately when we come out of this, it makes our businesses stronger. So being prepared for telecommunicating can effectively alleviate problems caused by other environmental issues, right? So obviously we have the coronavirus and what's happening now, but there are other environmental issues that go along with being in an office and being an HR company. We hear lots of them all the time. And so some of those things may be alleviated, like, simple employee issues, day-to-day things, who can't get along, who's not getting to work on time, those sorts of things. So there can be a positive. So what types of jobs or tasks can be done remotely? Tasks that do not require frequent access to physical paper files, special equipment, or supplies, not easily or economically transported to and from an employee's home, are the perfect starting points for transitioning to telecommuting. So as this law comes into effect and we need to move 50% of our office personnel to a remote model, one of the challenges that seems to arise is everyone needs a file. Maybe people share a file. Maybe there's file cabinets, right? So that is going to be probably one of the most detrimental things to making this transition is if things are not digitized in the cloud or are in our VPN, how are people going to access the work products that they need, right? So that is something to clearly be thinking about. Reviewing your employees' job descriptions to determine tasks that can be done remotely and to brainstorm on ideas on how to revise those tasks that seemingly cannot be done remotely. So clearly this is a company by company, position by position type of effort. And as you can imagine with this executive order right on the horizon tomorrow, this is a Herculean effort. So if you need assistance, assistance is available to help out on these sorts of things. Another thing to consider, how does your company track hours worked, right? So think about your company's method of time tracking and determine if it's appropriate for telecommuting. So for instance, just a simple example, if you use a hand scanner or a clock to punch in your time at your office, how are you going to move it to remote so that employees, particularly hourly employees, are logging in and clocking their time for proper payroll? So a proper HR technology suite, which includes time and attendance, is definitely needed. If you need help or suggestions, again, at the end, we'll let you know how you can get in touch with us if you need that kind of help. Understand that there are legal guidelines that the company and employees must follow, even when working remotely. Although it may seem scary, there are tools out there that to help you transition and make that transition run smoothly. Making the switch to telecommuting would seem like it's going to take a lot of time and effort, maximum effort, but the tools and skills are out there. So we're up against it on time. And as I mentioned before, please make sure that you're getting these policies and procedures and tasks going as soon as we end this call in a little while. Policies and procedures to think about and implement. Your human resources and information technology, right? Those departments are going to be essential in implementing and following procedures for your switch to telecommuting and in complying with this new executive order. Some processes to start with are equipment policy. Your remote employees will need the equipment necessary to complete their work from home. This could include a computer, a printer, supplies, a phone, etc., depending on the company. If any of this equipment is not already accessible to the employee, the company has to consider how they're going to supply it. If it is deemed appropriate for the company to supply this equipment, it must be agreed and understood that it's to be used for business purposes only. A list of inventories, right? So all of the assets that the company is providing to their employees needs to be supplied to the employee and signed off by all parties. This is to ensure the company reserves the right to make determinations regarding the equipment supplied and that the telecommuter takes the appropriate actions to protect the equipment from damage or theft. If the equipment is already owned by the employee, it should be agreed and understood that the company accepts no responsibility for damage and repairs, right? So think about all of the logistics just around that right there. Scheduling policy. The employee and the company will discuss and agree on the number of days, hours, work schedule, and manner of communication. Telecommuting employees who are not exempt from overtime requirements of the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, will be required to record all hours worked in a manner designated by the organization. Again, going back to time and attendance and HR technology, they're going to become critical to making this work effectively for everyone involved. Excuse me. A telecommuting agreement, right? So after the details have been established, an agreement can be drafted by your HR department to outline everything discussed and all policies that must be followed by the employee and the company. Written communication is best to avoid any confusion or misunderstandings. So everything should be written and agreed to, just as if a new employee was coming on board. What would they get on their first day? A job description and the handbook and all those sorts of things. The telecommuting agreement is going to be very important. Excuse me. It may be necessary to implement a new employee performance review system with telecommuting employees. Having a weekly task checklist may help employees stay on track and keep companies at ease, knowing that the work is being done in a timely manner. So again, back to our company and how we do it, because we've been remote with so many people for so long, we have an employee engagement and performance management tool that we use for our remote team. And it's a tremendous tool to keep everyone on track, knowing what their goals are, and making sure that the work that needs to be done is getting done in a timely, efficient, and proper manner. So implementation. So again, I urge you that we don't have time. So after this call, you might benefit from creating or working off of a checklist. This ensures that all information has been discussed and agreed upon, and it is in one place and can be easily referenced. The checklist can be reviewed at the start of the telecommuting transition, which we are upon, and can outline tasks such as detailing assignments due, hours of work, time recording reminders, privacy agreements, and anything else that's important to your company and your employees. After policies and procedures have been discussed and agreed, they should be administered to all telecommuting employees. Implementation will begin when telecommuters start working remotely, and compliance with all policies and procedures should be reviewed and recording. Again, this is a time to think about employee engagement and employee performance management in this new remote world, and how you make sure that everyone is working on the same page and working towards the common goals, and avoiding spring break, if you will, right? So making sure that the company's business is moving along effectively. Your company may benefit from implementing end of day or end of week reports written by the telecommuting employees, outlining the tasks that they have accomplished. This can help keep the employees on track and help your company determine if the amount of work being done in a given time frame is appropriate, right? So we're all now going to be, instead of staring at each other and know what we're working on, we're going to be guessing. Some can be done more efficiently, some could be done less efficiently, but we want to know those things. Compliance. Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA. This is important. Employers are required by law to maintain a safe workplace for employees, even if it's at their own home. While OSHA inspections don't generally happen in people's homes, we know this, there are situations where it might be possible, depending on the company. Companies that are required to keep OSHA records must also record the occupational injuries or illnesses from telecommuting employees. The Family Medical Leave Act. Employees that get injured while working remotely may still be eligible for workers' compensation. So think of the possibilities there. Even though the company has no control over the conditions inside an employee's house, they could still be on a workers' compensation injury case. Ensuring that injury recording policies are in place and advising employees to immediately notify a manager about an injury is important for protecting the company and those employees. From an FMLA perspective, and yesterday there was a new law passed in the Senate called Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which we'll talk about in a moment. And it really describes how FMLA and some other leaves are going to be handled in wake of the coronavirus outbreak pandemic. Employees who are sick and taking care of sick family members may be entitled to leave under FMLA under certain circumstances. Employees who fall under certain criteria may be eligible, and telecommuting employees could potentially be eligible. If telecommuting, so it is important to know that FMLA, and you must comply with all the legal proceedings to protect your company and your employees. And this law is being updated literally every day, so we can talk about that in a moment. Insurance and general liabilities. The employer and the telecommuter should consider other insurance and liability issues. For example, employers need to determine who will be responsible for theft or damaged equipment. So next steps in getting started. It may be important to review your employee handbook and job descriptions in order to make the transition to telecommuting employees as smooth as possible. All policies and procedures must be written, or should be, absolutely must be written, and explicitly provided to the employee to achieve the best outcome, right? Things that are written down and agreed to tend to work much better. Employees should be aware of their requirements while telecommuting and be aware of methods for communicating with other employees, right? So how are employees going to connect to each other, or reporting any problems that may arise? It may be beneficial to create a contact list with all employees' names, emails, and phone numbers. You may also want to create a document listing the different departments that employees can contact if they have specific questions or concerns. Having a telecommuting policies and procedures in place can come in handy during all types of situations. Certainly, this is the most important one that we're facing right now. So if you'd like to get in touch with us, certainly there's our contact information. So here are the things that you may need. And if you would like to contact us via phone or email, we'll get you a copy of these. So these are all the items that were referenced, or many of the items that were referenced in our conversation so far. One is the telecommuting checklist. Two is the telecommuting agreement that every employee should have. 3 is the Family First Coronavirus Response Act. This is the update to FMLA and some other leaves. That's very, very important. 3 is HR technology and time and attendance. So how are you going to measure your people's times in this new remote world? And then the 5th thing is employee engagement and performance management tools to make sure that everyone's working on the same page as they do in the office, and making sure that the business of the business is moving forward, and that the job is still the job, whether they're in the office or working from home or remotely. So before I open it up to questions, and you can use that chat function for questions, we have a couple of more webinars coming up. So because the executive order will be signed tomorrow, and we don't have guidance yet on the details, we're going to do this presentation, which will include the updates and guidance from the executive order. We're going to do that on Monday, March 23rd at 11 a.m. Again, you can, on our website there, you can see there's a page for signing up for webinars, so you can register again. On March 26th, a lot of people, unfortunately, are getting laid off. A lot of colleges are closed, those graduates, those recent graduates. So we offer a bunch of tools and trainings for those that are about to enter the workforce, as in college or high school students, those that are going to be in the looking for jobs. So how best to stand out on interviews and various tips and things like that. Our first responders program. So anyone, we have our Turning Point, we are first responders, veterans, and families. We have a program where any of those people can get access to any of our trainings, so that if they need to retrain, get into the workforce, whatever it might be, start a business, that is all available on our website for the first responders. So we thank anyone who has family members that are first responders and vets. Thank you, and that's our way of giving back. And then on April 23rd, worry less as a business owner. So at this point in time, I think there are a lot of things that are going to happen between now and April 23rd that we may be worrying about more or less. But that is the next scheduled event. So those are all on our website. So now I'm going to open it up to questions. So I have a couple that have been chatted to me privately, and let me just open those up. So Ron asks, what if you're not ready to do this? How do you deal with it? Ron, that's a great question. You know, maybe a week or so ago, or even on Monday of this past week, the response to that might have been, well, you know, there are steps you can do. Maybe there's some people, but it would be left up to Ron and his business and his employees to deal with that. I think we're entering a point in time where, unless you are considered one of those crucial businesses, you know, those exempt businesses, which are shipping, media, warehousing, grocery and food production, pharmacies, healthcare providers, utilities, banks, or other related financial institutions. Unfortunately, this is something that's going to have to happen. So getting on this literally as this session ends will be one of the most important things. Let's see, we have a question here raised. So Tammy asked, do you have a draft policy for employers or a template? So the answer, Tammy, to that is yes, we have these things. You can email us or call us, and we can talk about getting them to you. We can get them to you so that you have them ready to go. With that, I thank everyone for joining us. Wish everyone the best of luck as we go through what we're going through, and know that we've done this ourselves and we're helping our clients. So if you need advice, someone to talk to, or some guidance, we're here to help. There's our contact information. So Kim asked, will you send us the presentation? Kim, that's a great question. We are recording this. This is a recorded webinar. So we will be sending this out through various social media contacts and sending it to folks that have signed up for this webinar. If you'd like a copy of the physical presentation, please email me separately, and we can make sure that you have what you need. So with that said, I want to make sure I have them both answered. I think we do. I want to thank you, wish you the best of luck, appreciate you attending, and let's see if we got here. Okay. Okay, so we have a question here. Rick, we have not seen anything announcing an executive order to be signed by tomorrow for all businesses. We have only heard of an order surrounding 50% workforce in office limitations. On the NewYorkState.gov website, I can't open it up right now. Every day they give a daily update of updates and a review of what Governor Cuomo is doing. On that website is the announcement that he made yesterday in his press conference that he will be signing the executive order today. So that is on the NewYorkState.gov website. So the next question is, can you cut salary for those that cannot work at home? Jeff, this is a great question. I think this is still kind of in the guidance phase that we do not have access to at this point in time. I think these are the kinds of questions that will hopefully be answered when the executive order is signed and the details or guidance is released. So at this point, we don't have any guidance on that, and this is part of why this question is going to be part of the presentation on Monday at 11 a.m., which will include any guidance and any updates that we have from this point in time. So Kara asks, how does the Family First Coronavirus Response Act differ from FMLA? Excellent question. So as we offer the, if anyone wants a copy of the Coronavirus Response Act, it enhances many things that are going on in FMLA, and it depends on size of companies. So please email me. We'll give you the copy of the Response Act, or Google it, and it gives guidance on. It's very, it's very company size specific, revenue specific, those sorts of things, and it's very important that everyone understand what that law says and how it affects Family Medical Leave Act. Great questions. So with that, I think we have all the questions answered. I'll hold on a moment or two if anyone has a question. But to filibuster, there's my email address at the bottom, and there is the phone number if you'd like to chat. Please give me a call. We're here to help. Our team has done this, and thank you, and have a great day, everybody.